By definition, a fandom is a subculture composed of fans, characterized by a feeling of camaraderie with others who share common interests. But take a look at social media today and you'll see that the sense of belonging has been replaced with something much darker. Policing, harassment, and division. Fans rarely interact anymore. It's as if the word fandom now just means consuming the same media with no space for self-expression, creative outbursts, and legendary fan work that continues to be relevant long after it's released. What used to be a heaven for nerds and geeks to share their passion has become a wasteland. So where's that heaven now, and what was able to turn it into hell in the first place? I'm not alone with that question. The user jealousidol_scene opened a discussion on the subreddit r/decadology, writing, "Is fandom culture dying in the 2020s? My observation is that fandoms in general have become less participatory since I first got into them in the early 2010s. The user then goes on and remarks how the transition from DeviantArt and Tumblr to Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok has greatly influenced fan creation. Another user disagrees. They instead hold the antis or anti-fans accountable for the downfall of self-expression in fandom spaces. An unknown user suggests that the disappearance is caused by the decline of interest in long-term media, like TV shows, movies, and novels that offer foundation for fan creation other than their short-term counterparts. This discussion gives us 3 theses to explore. Number 1. The shift in social media usage. Number 2. Cringe and cancel culture. And number 3. The type of consumed media. Let's begin. By taking a closer look at the algorithms and the usage of current social media and the ones that flourished in the 2010s, we can compare the influence of the platforms on the establishment of fandom communities. Let's take supported content for instance. On one hand, we have TikTok and Instagram, which are flooded with short snippet-like visual content that rarely surpasses the 3-minute mark, and Twitter with its word and picture limit serving more as a news broadcast for real-time updates than anything more than that. And then, on the other hand, we have Tumblr, the one that has it all. While Tumblr has limits for the amount of data for images, GIFs, videos, and audios, its unlimited word count feature enables entire novels with a fanfiction, in-depth essays, detailed analysis, and wild theory crafting. In addition to this already vast spread of possible file formats, Tumblr allows additional customization, adding the cherry on top. In terms of supported file formats, DeviantArt breaks the limits of traditional social media. Listing them all would be overkill since there's 18 different file formats. 6 for images, 3 for videos and animations, another 3 for text files, this time with a standard word limit though. This is where it gets interesting. 4 for 3D modeling, and because that wasn't enough, DeviantArt also supports zip and SWF files. Let's not forget the fact that it enables commissions and feeds artists. Now let's compare modern social media like Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram to the ones that peaked in 2010. The disparities are immediately evident. However, only looking at what is or isn't supported by the platforms will not give us the whole picture. In order to further investigate the media's influence, we have to compare algorithms and etiquette. Twitter and TikTok are known for the toxicity and their drama, making it an unsafe environment for communities. But why are users so extreme and prone to shitstorm over there? The answer lies within the means to get famous. Twitter's famous hashtags and TikTok's iconic For You page are chaotically short-lived since both sides favor real-time engagement and fast feedback over Tumblr, Reddit's, and DeviantArt's beloved evergreen content. Trends and hype come and pass by. The trending hashtags change from hour to hour. This results in a new Netflix show being in and the one from last week already being out, without having had the opportunity to enjoy and reflect on it. But hey, no matter the time, that fanfiction on Tumblr, it's waiting for you to return to it again and again. Shorter lifetimes of posts lead to more being published, resulting in overpopulation of content. How can you, as a creator, get attention when millions of others are offering the same and more? The answer is simple. You have to be more intense. You can only stick out through the radicalization of yourself. It's the extremes that get attention, and so you begin to spiral into engagement bait. Why do you think Meowa got so viral? Because rage bait pays. Why do you think Jellybean Sweets has such high viewing numbers? Because she's crossing the line of acceptability into extremism, allowing and profiting off of the judgment her content receives. That judgment is unheard of on Tumblr. Even though Tumblr provides walls closing off the so-called normies from their fandom spaces, the atmosphere itself feels anomalous. Hiding fandoms away is a strategic but limiting choice. On one hand, doing so prevents possible growth and exposure to new fans, sometimes resulting in gatekeeping and secrecy. On the other hand, we humans are coded to be wary of the unknown and often are repelled by what we can't grasp. An example for this would be the Cringe compilations that circulate on YouTube, in which the majority of users depicted are merely expressing strong emotions in regards to their interests or creating fan work that may stand out from the norm. We seem to have entered the territory of Thesis 2. Cringe culture and antis. But before we dive into that, let's recap what we have learned from them from only the social media platforms themselves. Shorter content, such as TikToks and tweets, lead to extremes. Allowing strangers into your community may lead to mockery and ridicule. In addition, I'd like to add one more social media related factor into the equation. The stitch, duet, and quote feature. While call-out posts have been around ever since people did deeds that are worthy of a call-out, think news articles or public speeches, the sheer amount and intensity has amplified with the internet. While it's an unwritten rule on Tumblr that the anonymity of users is to be respected and that the artists on DeviantArt get judged for their art alone, Twitter and TikTok throw that anonymity out of the window. The users on Tumblr will be more avoidant in regards of unacceptable behavior, while the newer generations are more prone to reaction and personal attacks. Say something stupid about your favorite ship on Tumblr and you get ignored. Do the same on TikTok and you will be stitched by a creator who will not only disapprove of your opinion, but you as a person, but also send an army of like-minded individuals over into your comment section to further harass you. The rise of cringe compilations have with no doubt affected the ways fans present themselves online. Cringe culture, or rather shaming extraordinary behavior into submission to equalize, has become accepted in our society. I myself have seen many TikTokers embarrassed by their past alternative phase, asking the internet to shame their old version, so they never dare to return to their outrageous hair colors and experimental fashion choices. Cringe culture is not seen as a form of mockery, but rather as a form of advice the individual will be grateful for in the future. Or it's used as a means to distance themselves publicly from somebody or something that they think of as lesser than their own behavior. Cringe culture is pushing your second-hand embarrassment onto the ones causing it, and in the process forcing them to conform to your ideals. In the setting of a fandom, this gets rid of all the originality and spark the fandom had. Doxing, cyberbullying, and serious threats to one's safety have gotten much more common and continue to be overlooked by moderators, or at least the platform's moderation. Having the user themselves moderate their smaller communities instead of only relying on automated moderation alone makes subreddits and Twitch chats much more pleasant of an experience than some comment sections on TikTok. But with great power comes great responsibility. It's the moderator's task to make sure everyone stays safe and civil. But what if the moderators abuse their power to silence opinion or gatekeep the community to keep the fandom niche and familiar, labeling the littlest things as problematic and in the process discouraging forms of self-expression important for fandoms? It's not problematic to ship characters who aren't canonically in a relationship. its sheer creativity set loose. This enforcement of identical views and opinions might lead to a different discussion, leaving the plane of morality and entering the plane of imagination in regards to unmoral material. The fight between fanonists and canonists polarizes the fandom within. Those who distance themselves from offensive material with the means of headcanons, fan work, and alternative interpretation against those who scrutinize the headcanoners because they still somewhat support its material offensive nature against the ones who disapprove of both methods, watching the material as it is in order to keep up the nostalgia without acknowledging the outdated elements. In some cases in which the creator and not their work is the object of discussion, fans not willing to give up their beloved media might use the created by Hatsune Miku method, a double-edged sword in fan communities, since separating the art from the artist works only for when said artist had already passed or does no longer profit off a fandom interaction. Once again, the fandom fights. This time, the Miku approaches against the loyal fans, against the ones which have completely abandoned everything related to that creator. Aside from the acceptance of problematic media, how has the material itself and our behavior towards it changed? With Netflix and streaming services, the excessive access to media should offer enough stories to build a fandom around, enough characters to create headcanons about, and enough lore to craft theories around, right? Turns out quite the opposite is the case. The problem is not that we consume not enough media, but rather too much. Despite the overall viewership of television declining these past 13 years, with the average watch time in America falling from 241 minutes daily to 149 minutes, more shows are being produced and published than ever. Not by the big networks, but rather on streaming services. The choice seems endless. This overpopulation of shows makes individual ones stand out less and makes engagement harder to sustain. But just because services like Netflix publish more individual titles doesn't mean that a Netflix show can be compared to the ones broadcasted traditionally. Data reports less episodes per season for streaming services in comparison to networks. It's quantity of shows over quantity of media per show. Instead of having a title run for as long as the demand allows, they cancel or abruptly end it to move on to the next project. And we all know how difficult it is to sustain the excitement after a conclusion. It's not a miracle that newer mediums are catering towards the shorter attention spans of Gen Z by publishing digestible shows that will give you that dopamine we're all so addicted to once we've finished binging. Which leads to the next shift in consumer etiquette. Binging. We all remember the golden days of Stranger Things. The show brought both financial success and a flourishing fan base. Another example is Arcane, also provided by Netflix. But what distinguished these two from the rest? What if I told you that it had nothing to do with the plot or the cast, that the budget and the producers aren't responsible for the establishment of the fandom? To answer why they were so loved and discussed, we don't need to look at how these shows are produced, but rather how they were published. Let's look at Stranger Things. Season 1, released in July 2016. Season 2, in October 2017. Season 3 in July 2019, Season 4, May and July of 2022. As we can see, there are always months in between the release of new content, but why does that matter? Because the viewer has to wait, and while doing so, he will keep that excitement for the next season. Back in the day, this was pretty normal and expected. On a micro scale, traditional media also establishes breaks, not only in between seasons, but also in between episodes with their weekly schedule. I'm not saying that Stranger Things wait periods are quite the same as they were back then, but we can still draw parallels. Traditional weekly TV episodes gave fans time to theorize, create art, and cosplays between installments. Nowadays, we not only still do that, but cosplay and merch companies have time to publish items, knowing that if the product doesn't sell now, they will during the next spike when the new season comes out. Streaming services don't usually operate like that, unless they are forced to because of the production periods or because they don't trust in the popularity, so they don't fully commit to maybe cancel later. Entire seasons, and if this continues, maybe even entire shows drop at once, and fans finish them in a weekend. By Tuesday, the hype is gone. Even indie projects like Hell of a Boss use this approach to great effect, building anticipation between episodes. However, the lack of funding and the sudden demand for more overwhelms other indie studios, and with long production gaps, they slowly but surely continue to work on a new episode or a new chapter. But once they post their hard work, the fans that supported their work just a few months ago have already moved on to the next short indie project. The traditional TV approach hinders all that. 1 week is enough time to foster engagement while not being long enough to lose interest in the media. That's my dog, sorry. Even though Netflix could risk to challenge the delicate attention span of their viewership, especially after what they gained due to their guidelines regarding password sharing, they continue to release all at once. Companies definitely make it really easy to binge these days, but our behavior has of course also changed, and we are responsible for that change. And we are also responsible for the change of fandom culture. Sometimes I reflect on shows like Attack on Titan, My Little Pony, My Hero Academia, Steven Universe or Gravity Falls and truly ask myself if those times of fandom life are a staple of the past. So yes, the Redditors were right once again. Fandoms are disappearing. Modern platforms prioritize speed and extremism over loyalty. Cringe culture and cancel culture scare off originality and self-expression. Oversaturation of media makes it harder to maintain the fans' engagement, either by filling the void of production gaps with the binging of other shows, or after the fan finished binging the show in the first place. So does that mean that we will never experience Pregnant Todoroki or Sonic X Sans fanfiction ever again? Nope. Just think about the pandemic times in which just one of the fandom killers got neutralized. That being the pressure to conform due to IRL cringe culture. And suddenly, the internet was colorful again. Of course, there are many more reasons why the internet had its own little renaissance in the 2020s, but that's a topic for another video essay. So, besides spreading a virus and causing a global lockdown, how can we save our beloved communities? For once, we can start with something that won't necessarily strengthen the communities and enhance the quality of said content, but it will enhance the mental health of the creators. We could start to embrace platforms like Tumblr again that support long-term engagement and fix our attention spans. Hopefully that will lift the pressure to upload every single day, every single hour, every single minute, every single second. Oh my god, I have to upload! So just read a book, watch the full movie instead of online snippets with gameplay below. Maybe that was a bit much to ask, was it? Secondly, support creators who space out releases to give fandoms time to grow. Or if you don't watch indie projects, maybe you should definitely try doing that. And we definitely don't need to follow a trend. Advocate for your old favorites, or media that releases content gradually, giving fans time to connect, reconnect, and create fan work. For example, did you know that Rusty Quill, the creator of the Magnus archives, has published the Magnus Protocol? And there are already 33 episodes and more to come after the hiatus ends. And to be honest, we have already started investing in saving the fandoms. Things are getting less hostile on TikTok, because a lot of us fans already experienced what it's like to be labeled as cringe, and because we have learned firsthand that hiding what truly makes us ourselves can be worse than death. we protest. For once, there is the death before detransition movement for the trans people. And secondly, we have started the cringe culture counter movement with our revival of 2021. Sadly, too short-lived. Yes, people are out there embracing cringy stereotypes, and they live a much happier life than those who do care about keeping up appearances. And fandoms are supposed to be fun. Is writing that hateful paragraph fun? Oh, okay, that's the Jürgen Leitner rant. That one is fun. But towards a headcanon ship? Is binging a show to a point where you need to take purposeful breaks from it fun? I don't think so. Communities are supposed to unite us, not to put us against each other. Gods forgive me, that was such a My Little Pony thing to say. But Tab, I can't find a fandom to join because they're all so small or abandoned that there's nothing to interact with anymore. Then be brave and take the first step. A fandom's a garden. You can't just harvest the veggies without watering them once. And if your garden is new, then you can't expect growth without sowing the seeds first.